President, the Committee on Justice and Human Rights, pursuant to its rules, has a quorum, and this committee hearing is hereby called to order. Comsec, can you acknowledge the presence of our resource persons here? We will be tackling two bills for today's hearing. The first one would be Senate Bills 1504 and 1509. Principal authors are the Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri and Senator Joel Villanueva, and it has something to do with the naturalization bills concerning Mr. Kyle Jennermann, an applicant for naturalization. And the second agenda of this committee is several bills relative to the protection to be given to the elderly against abuse, neglect, and exploitation, and prescribing penalties for violations thereof, introduced by Senator Gatchalian, Senator Sani Angara, Senator Risa Hontiveros, and Senator Ramon Bong Revilla Jr. Comsec, you may proceed.
Good morning, Your Honors. Mapagpalang umaga po sa ating lahat. From the Department of Justice, Your Honor, attending virtually is Attorney Don Rick Ventura. Kindly acknowledge once your name is called, please.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Senate President. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning to all the resource persons from the various national government agencies and to all persons present.
From the National Bureau of Investigation, attending virtually, sir, will be Head Agent Palmer U. Malyari and Special Agent John Mark Santiago.
Hi, good morning, Senate President and to the Committee Secretary, Committee Chairman, and the members of the committee. Good morning. I am Head Agent Palmer Malyari, and with me is Supervising Agent Mark Santiago, the Executive Officer of the Anti-Organized Crime Division.
Good morning, sirs. From the Directorate for Investigation and Detective Management of our PNP, physically present are Police Brigadier General Cosme Abenica, Police Brigadier General Robert Alexander Morico II, Police Captain Christian Azuma, and Police Brigadier General Vincent Calanoga. From the Department of Foreign Affairs, virtually attending is Assistant Director Von Ryan Pangwi.
Good morning to the Senate President and the members of the committee and fellow colleagues in government. I'm Von Ryan Pangwi from the DFA Board.
From the Bureau of Immigration, virtually attending is Attorney Charlene May Kalingasan.
Good morning, Mr. Senate President, Mr. Chair, and the members of the committee. I think I will be joined by my colleague, Attorney Arcadio Benitez Jr. in a bit. Good morning po, everyone.
From the Philippine Statistics Authority, attending virtually is Mr. Emilio Querubin Jr. and Attorney Evelyn A. Beltran.
Yes, sir. Good morning po, Senate President and Honorable Chairman of the Committee. Good morning po sa lahat ng nandito.
Next, our applicant for naturalization, Mr. Kyle Jennermann.
Yes, good morning po.
From the Senior Citizens Party list representing Representative Rodolfo Ordonez, we have Attorney Charles De Belen.
Good morning, Senate President, Mr. Chair, and the members of the committee and the other resource persons. I'm Attorney Charles De Belen, representing the Senior Citizen Party list.
From the National Commission of Senior Citizens, we have Attorney Franklin Quijano.
Good morning, Mr. Senate President Miggs, Senator Col, and Senator Joel Villanueva, NCSC po.
From the Department of Social Welfare and Development, we have with us physically is Assistant Secretary Gary Politico.
Good morning, Senate President, Mr. Chair, Senator Villanueva, and colleagues.
Also from the National Commission of Senior Citizens, we have Mr. Cliff Cabingon and Mr. Anthony Alcazar. That is all, Your Honor. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Thank you, Comsec. Before we proceed, just a an inquiry addressed to, we take advantage of the presence of the Senate President. I'm just a bit curious, and I need a clarification relative to this. Do we still allow virtual resource persons attending committee hearings since the pandemic is almost over, Mr. Senate President? Do we allow them, or kasi baka yung iba tinatamad na lang pumunta rito eh? Di buti pa si Attorney Quijano nandito. So, yung mga importante, nasa Zoom na lang sila. Wala na hong COVID ngayon eh. That's what I'm referring to, Mr. President.
As a matter of fact, Attorney Quijano is representing the senior citizens. He himself is a senior citizen and is not worried to come here on site. Actually, I think that privilege is more being given to the senators on Zoom. Not really the resource persons. It's the call of the chairperson to make sure that they you can require them to attend physically, Your Honors. And you're the Blue Ribbon Chair. So, I mean, the Blue Ribbon Chair and the Chairman of the Committee on Justice. So, you can compel them to attend the hearing. So, if you wish, on the next hearing, you can compel all those resource persons to come.
Thank you for the guidance, Mr. Senate President, because we understand we know the diligence exerted by all the resource persons, the police officers, pero yung iba nasa Zoom lang eh.
I think the exemption only, Mr. Chairman, is when they are sick or have COVID.
Or when they are abroad and they have to be in the presence, inside the premises of a consulate chancery of the embassy.
But the exemption was given during the time of COVID. So now that there's no longer COVID, if they're not COVID positive or do not have a what you call this, yung COVID na complications, they should be here. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just be allowed to add to what our Senate President just mentioned, under our rules, we revised and modified, amended our rules during the pandemic only to allow our members to attend our sessions, allow members with comorbidities to participate during sessions, and we extended that particular rule in the committee hearings. But let me also again reiterate what the Senate President made mention, that it is the call of the chair if he wanted to oblige, or I'm not going to use the word force, Mr. Chairman, but I just share the sentiment of our chair, considering that we are all here on a break. On a break, Mr. Chairman. We are all here. We have here Attorney Quijano representing senior citizens, and we are all physically present, Mr. Chair. So I also share your sentiment, Mr. Chairman. So I hope our resource persons who are participating online are aware that we are all here. The Senate President himself is here, physically present. I mean, how could you? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. And since this is a Senate hearing, all those virtually present should be mindful of that. Give respect and dignity to this committee hearing. ComSec, take note and confer with the other committee secretaries that the guidance of the Senate President is to have all the resource persons physically present. Otherwise, we will not acknowledge them. They're wasting the time of their offices as well as the time of this committee. We now proceed with the permission of our Senate President, our Senate Majority Leader. Senate President is given his time for his introductory statement.
Thank you very much. On the other bills, on the Anti-Senior Citizen Abuse Act, I fully support this, Your Honors. There are many times you see on Facebook or on YouTube where senior members of the senior citizens are actually being abused verbally, physically, whether by public servants themselves or even with just common folk harassing our senior citizens. So it is timely that we come up with a law specifically on this, because we have laws on women and children. And we may need to have a law particularly on anti-abuse of senior citizens. So I fully support this on the onset, because I may have to leave a little later to join the hearing of Senator Bato. But on the citizenship bill, if I may give my opening statement,
Mr. President,
thank
we
you,
start with the application of Mr.
Thank you.
Jennermann. Jennermann.
Jennermann.
Yes.
Jennermann.
It's the slang for gentleman. Yes, Mr. Senate President, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues and resource persons, a pleasant good morning to you all. It brings me great joy and to speak before you today as author of Senate Bill number 1500, which seeks to grant Philippine citizenship to Mr. Kyle Douglas Jennermann in recognition of his contributions to the promotion of the Philippines and its culture. Mr. Jennermann is known to many as Kulas, a 34-year-old Canadian citizen who, by the way, is turning 35 this Saturday, April 22. Advance happy birthday, Your Honor. And this gentleman has dedicated his YouTube channel, aptly titled Becoming Filipino, featuring the Philippines' natural beauty and promoting the country's culture and identity to the world. With more than 1 million followers, millions of followers, both in YouTube and Facebook, Kulas has traveled by scooter to a total of 80 provinces in the country. He has gone to more provinces than I have. And I've been a senator for almost 10 years now. Yeah. All the while documenting his experiences and interactions and sharing them through his vlogs. He has showcased the country's beautiful beaches, mountains, waterfalls, and rivers, and has come to love Filipino culture, immersing himself to the Filipino way of life, even learning the Filipino language. He may not be very fluent in Tagalog, but he's very fluent in Bisaya, which is my language as well. He has been living in the Philippines since 2013 and has written and created thousands of posts actively promoting the country through social media. Aside from his continuing effort to promote the country through this channel, Kulas has also helped Filipinos in times of great need, bringing much needed attention to areas that had been affected badly by typhoons, and even actively involving himself in relief operations and calamity-stricken areas. Such is the case of Typhoon Yolanda when it hit in 2013. Mr. Jennermann found himself in the Philippines contributing to the relief efforts in whatever way he can. He quit his job in Hong Kong where he was working in an outdoor adventure company, and flew to Cagayan de Oro where he ended up packing relief goods at the Red Cross station in the city. Together with his other friends from the Filipino outdoor community, he also helped putting up the One Tacloban, which was able to raise donations that were used to provide relief goods to the people of Tacloban. During his stay in the city, he also started documenting the damage of the area and afterwards would camp out near tents in the United Nations or by the United Nations, which was the only place with internet signals at the time, uploading his videos on YouTube so that family and friends would know the real situation on the ground and how badly help was needed. That's how much he loved our country, even at that time, 10 years ago. To this day, Mr. Jennermann continues to use his platforms in bringing to the attention of the world the areas needed of help, like visiting towns that have been badly affected by these calamities. Mr. Kyle Douglas Jennermann was born and raised in Vancouver Island, Canada, but in the 9 years that he has spent in the Philippines, he has truly become Filipino. He loves her people. His girlfriend is Filipina. Hopefully he'll marry one day. I don't want to preempt any thing in the future. He totally respects her culture, who, by the way, she's from Cavite, where the chairman is from. He promotes our country's natural beauty, and he's proud to call Philippines his home. And before I end, I would just like to say, I was touched recently, before we actually even met each other, this was about 4 months ago. He did a vlog, a live Facebook vlog in North Cotabato. You know, he's based in Mindanao. This gentleman lives in Davao del Sur. No, Davao Oriental, sorry. Davao Oriental. And he takes residence in Davao Oriental. He used to be a resident of Cagayan de Oro, Attorney Quijano, which we're from, because that's the area of our children of Attorney Quijano are friends of Mr. Jennermann. And I truly love how he promotes Mindanao, first and foremost being a Mindanaoan. You know, when you say Mindanao, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, people are saying, that's war-torn area, that's a war zone, why are you going there? All these terrorists and all. And a lot has changed since then when we passed the Bangsamoro Organic Law, when we came up with full peace negotiations with all the participants of the previous strife and man-made calamities that were done during that time. And we have meets and bounds when it comes to the development and the progress of the area. But yet there's still a black eye. And there's still embassies, and I know this because I mentioned this to Mr. Jennermann recently. There's still embassies that blacklist Mindanao, particularly Cagayan de Oro. I mean, even Cagayan de Oro, Camiguin, all these beautiful places. Davao is also blacklisted. That's such a beautiful, safe place to be in. And it is only this gentleman over here that I see in the internet who's from another country who is telling the story on how beautiful and safe Mindanao is. And again, I say this because 4 months ago, I was watching his vlog. He was in North Cotabato in a field in, was it Pigkawayan? North Cotabato, which used to be a war-torn area when it used to fight the MILF, the AFP and the MILF used to fight in these areas. And he was taking a video and saying how safe and peaceful this place is. I'm in my scooter all by myself in the middle of a rice paddy. And I felt teary-eyed because it was that time that we were getting flack from all over news media organizations for my wish to promote the Philippines. And they're saying, you cannot sanitize the Philippines. You cannot do this. And I said, no, we have to, in every little effort that we can, to promote our country, to get tourists to come, to get investors to come. If you really love your country, promote the good things about it too. We're not saying that you should not write about the bad things. You may do stories about the bad things, but also write about the good things, the beautiful things. That's why when I saw him in that vlog, I was very emotional and teary-eyed. I showed it to my wife, who happened to be his friend, and my wife told him, I will set you up with Kyle, with Kulas, because he's a friend of mine. And ever since we've become very close, and as a matter of fact, I am 100% for his citizenship, because there are so many who are seeking citizenship for only monetary gains. Let's face it, ang dami namin na-approve na citizens, ang ginawa nila just to make money, put up a plant, buy property, and just for their own monetary gains. Here's a gentleman who is not doing this for monetary gains. He's doing this to promote our country because he loves our country. And I do not know why we will give him a hard time for his citizenship. He's, you know, if you ask many Filipinos, they want to be Canadian citizens. Let's be honest about it. Or American citizen. Here's a Canadian citizen who wants to be a Filipino. We should embrace that. And we should show that by embracing him here, that the country is safe, the country is a safe place for tourists, for our brothers and sisters from all over the world to live and work here. With that, Mr. Chairman, it is with great honor and joy that I sponsor this bill, which seeks to grant Mr. Kyle Jennermann Philippine citizenship. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Kyle Kulas, for all the help that you do in our country. Blessed good morning to all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Senate President. May we now hear any introductory statement coming from one of the authors, Senator Joel Villanueva, the Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, and good morning to everyone here, especially our Senate President. If you see the Senate President, the Chairperson of the Committee on Justice, and the Majority Leader in one room, it means that we're doing something extra special. So let me, first of all, Mr. Chairman, make a comment on the Anti-Senior Citizen Abuse Act. I am in full support of this. If you recall, Mr. Chairman, this representation defended the doubling of our social pension. We also fought for the budget for this year, and we hope to hear later on probably the improvements and the implementation of the said law. Having said that, Mr. Chairman, may I give my sponsorship speech, a short sponsorship speech. I was thinking what else I would say after the sponsorship speech of our beloved Senate President. Mr. Chairman, first of all, thank you for calling this hearing despite of the fact that we are supposed to be on break and presiding this committee hearing on the bills granting Filipino citizenship to Kyle Douglas Jennermann, or aka Kulas, including the Senate bill that this representation filed, Senate Bill number 1509. This bill is one of the very few, Mr. Chairman, if I recall, I have been a member of Congress for more than 20 years now. The only time I filed a citizenship bill was that of Justin Brownlee and Mr. Kyle Jennermann. For 20 years, Mr. Chairman, I've been voting, I have been agreeing, and sometimes I regret some of my decisions, but only twice, Mr. Chairman, I filed a bill granting citizenship to any individual in this on the surface of the earth. And one is Kyle Douglas Jennermann, or Kulas. Mr. Chairman, Kyle or Kulas has traveled, as mentioned by Senate President, 80 out of 81 provinces. That's amazing, Mr. Chairman. I have been a politician for more than 20 years. I have never traveled 80 provinces in the entire country. And considering, Mr. Chairman, I know the Senate President saying me as well. But remember, I was a party list representative for 9 years. As a party list representative of SIBAC, I was supposed to go around the country, right? But I never had the chance to travel 80 out of 81 provinces. And for this reason, Kulas is showcasing the natural beauty of our country, its culture, its people, etc. with his blogs. This in turn has immensely boosted our tourism industry to his almost 3 million combined subscribers across his social media pages such as Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. He even partnered with the Tourism Promotions Board, Mr. Chairman, to help promote the country as a Philippine tourism ambassador. When calamities hit the country, as mentioned a while ago by our Senate President, he would use his platform, Mr. Chairman, his channel, Becoming Filipino, to rally people around the world to extend assistance to our kababayans all over the country. He also actively participated in relief operations during these times. Indeed, Mr. Chairman, Kyle has shown that he deserves to be a Filipino citizen. He has immersed himself in the Filipino way of life since 2013 and even learned how to speak Filipino. Talo niya pang ako, mas marami pa siyang alam na Bisaya na word for me. He has christened a local nickname Kulas. Kaya nga talagang lokal na siya ngayon, Mr. Chairman. It is also in this country where he met his girlfriend, Terine. And let me end by saying Kulas firmly believes, Mr. Chairman, that the world would be a better place to live if people around the world make the Philippines a part of their lives. While born and raised in Vancouver, Canada, he considers Philippines his home. So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Senate President, dear colleagues listening to this representation, let us make Becoming Filipino not just a YouTube channel, but a reality. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Senate Majority Leader. Before we proceed, I'd like to place this on the record that under current and existing laws, there are 3 ways by which a foreigner may become a citizen by naturalization. 1, by legislative naturalization, which is the process we are undertaking today. Number 2, administrative naturalization, as pursuant to Republic Act 9139, the Administrative Naturalization Law of 2000. And thirdly, judicial naturalization, pursuant to Commonwealth Act 473 or the revised naturalizations law. So these are the 3 ways. I have here all the documents, my dear colleagues, submitted by Mr. Kyle Douglas Jennermann to this committee. But before that, gusto malaman ng mga nakikinig ngayon. Do you understand me? Bakit ka karapat dapat maging Pilipino? Mayong buntag, bakit ka karapat dapat maging Pilipino? Bakit gusto mo maging Pilipino? Ano maitutulong mo sa Pilipinas? At ano po ang plano mo pag ikaw ay naging ganap na Pilipino? Naintindihan niyo po ako? Before you speak, I'd like to ask the COMSEC to administer the oath first to all the resource persons present, including those virtually present. Can you rise for the oath? The senior citizens, kasi isahan na lang po tayo, including Ma'am Attorney, Mr. General. Thank you. I'm sorry, Attorney Magbanwa. Kulas, ulitin ko, bakit gusto mong maging Pilipino? Siguro, with all due respect, I can ask the Senate President to translate that for me in Cebuano. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Honorable Chairman, first, I have to start by saying pasensya na. Kasi ganina, you might have noticed my good morning was just good morning po. I should have addressed you, Chairman Magandang Umaga po, Senate President Magandang Umaga, and Majority Leader Villanueva Magandang Umaga. Also, pasensya na po kasi na yun, of course, nakatira ko dito sa Pilipinas, pero Mindanao po, nakatira doon. So, marunong Bisaya, marunong Tagalog, actually, but medyo mahirap. If I speak to you in straight Tagalog right now, Chairperson, it's going to be not deep enough for me to really express myself. And
Can speak Vishlish.
when I had tag biz, when I had my hearing in Congress about 2 months ago, when I say pasensya na and forgive me for speaking English, I really do mean that to everybody in this room, because would I love to speak straight Filipino to you? Absolutely. But I've also realized, my life here, it's been incredibly unique. Having driven 115,000 kilometers on a scooter, unsupported, but when I say unsupported, I don't mean unsupported as in no Filipino people. No, I mean I did it out of passion and purpose. But I also found out through that journey that it isn't just Filipino I should be learning. It should be all languages. So this morning, if I was in Ilocos Norte, it's Naimbag na bigat. It's naimas, delicious. If I'm in Capo Island, in Northern Samar, it's inabaknan. I say mahalap na long. That's Mayan Bintag, good morning. If I'm with my friends who are Maranao, it's Mape Mapita. If I'm down in Zamboanga City, it's Buenos Dias, good morning, Chavacano. I could go on and on. I've learned so many different words and sayings. If I'm really Gainan, Mayanaga, Namek Gid, Lago Lago, that's Pasha Pasha, Lag Lag. But basically, I have to speak to you in English right now because it is the language that I deeply know enough. But also saying that, I know how unique language is here in the Philippines, so it makes me comfortable speaking to you what I'm comfortable in as well. Because I've even met Filipinos in Upper Uma, Lubuangan, Kalinga, in the village. They don't speak Tagalog. They never learned it. They learned Kalingan and English. But they're still Filipino because they believe in being a part of this country in a positive way. So why do I want to be Filipino? Bakit? You know what? My life here, Chairperson, it was never about becoming a Filipino. When I use the term becoming Filipino, it was because I was having positive experiences dito sa Filipinas that were becoming a part of my life, and I truly believed had purpose to share about with the world around me. So that's why I started doing what I'm doing. I had been to 29 countries prior to coming here to the Philippines. I was not a blogger, not a vlogger, not a media person. I was just a guy who worked in outdoor education and liked taking people on positive experiences in the outdoors. But what happened is I worked with Filipinos in Hong Kong. That's how I was introduced to the country, working side by side with OFWs. I started to realize, I was like, these guys, you know, we're working really hard, but they're always so happy, and they're always like on the weekends, patak, chipping in and having a good time. And I became friends. I think that's Bisaya, you know, patak. And so I became friends with them overseas in Hong Kong. And through their positive interaction with me and their positive talk about the country, it drove me to want to come here. And I started coming and going. And not a lot of people will know this, because people who follow me on the internet wouldn't have seen 2013, which is my life before I did any blogging or vlogging. Here, coming and going from the Philippines, when I was unofficially adopted into a Filipino compound with manangs, titas, and Cagayan de Oro. I was 24 at the time, an independent Canadian. Here I am with 30 people in a compound in a small room, people around me all day and night, and no more personal space, but learning how beautiful that is. You know, that family culture. You know, Typhoon Yolanda hit. I ended up leaving my job at the time in Hong Kong because I was working with Filipinos who I deeply respected at that point. And I had been coming and going from the country, and it really affected me. So I had to do something. So I left my job and I went into Tacloban 9 days after the storm, because my barkada, my original Filipino friends, are all the big outdoors guys. One of them worked in Tacloban. He's Waray. And we were able to go in there, and we spent a month there. And I never forget driving down in the area where Malakiang Barco, those big boats, you might remember, it crashed up. And I remember I'm with a friend of mine who recently passed away a few years ago, Chico, and we drive up and I see a family. And that family, they're just kind of hanging out doing something. So I go to interact with them. Every 15 minutes, what do? Up here, high five, I give them my sunglasses, you know, we chica. And then right before I leave, I ask them, what are you guys doing? And they said, we're digging for a dead Lola under these boats. For that 15 minutes, they were giving me these brief moments of, you know, positivity. And that's where I was learning all these things in 2013 about the ability for people in this country to connect with positive moments and appreciate life no matter what. You know, if that's not something we're sharing around the world, I don't know what is, diba? So what happened is 2014 in February, I started something called Becoming Filipino. It wasn't me trying to sit here in front of you today and be a Filipino. That was not the goal. It never was. But over the years, my life has become so deeply immersed here. I never had a foreign friend in the country for 7 years. Do I have many foreign friends around the world? Again, maraming. But here in the Philippines, it was Filipinos, living with a Filipino family, driving around immersing with Filipinos from north to south. And my life became so immersed between the ages of 24 to 34, sitting in front of you now. That's all of my prime young adulthood. I have been here in the Philippines, immersed with Filipinos. That's 35% of my life. But again, all of my prime life up to now. And as I said in Congress, whether I like it or not, and trust me, I very much do like it, the Philippines will be a part of my life and has become a part of who I am. It has grown me, it has nurtured me, it has taught me so much about what I think is important, you know. And I have to stop because I know your time is incredibly valuable, Mr. Chairperson, so sorry, but basically, why do I want to become a Filipino? Because I believe that inspiration is going to motivate not just me personally, but millions of Filipinos around the world to do positive things here with the Philippines and around the world everywhere else. So that's why.
Thank you, Kyle. I had two questions.
Yeah.
I will not ask how come you're a friend of the Senate President. I will not ask that.
Okay.
I will not ask how come you're a friend of the Majority Leader. I will not ask that. My previous question, which remains unanswered, is how will you contribute to the Philippines? Number two, will you be staying here for the rest of your life? Will you be a senior citizen likewise?
I would love to. It's the greatest fear in life.
That is 30 years from now. You will be less. You'll be a Filipino senior citizen.
Yes.
You'll be availing of some rights given by the Philippine government. So you would love that. And how can you contribute more? Aside from the blogs, aside from the positive impact that you would like to project, how can you contribute more?
First and foremost, I believe literally sharing positive education about the country. I'm going to tell you a quick story. 2014, only a few months in to sharing about my life and everything around me here in the country, I got a message from a Filipina. She had been in the States for 16 years. She had married an American that had 2 kids. She sent me a message and she said, "Hey, Kuras, I'm here in America. I've been here for 16 years. I now have 2 kids. They don't even know anything about their Filipino heritage, their Filipino bloodline. I had disconnected myself from the Philippines. But you know what, Kuras? There's a photo of me in front of the Mayan volcano. I came back home because of what you were showing me. I reconnected with my roots because of what you were talking about. And now I want to teach my kids too, the language, what's in their bloodline." And saying that as well, like, nakatira ko Mindanao, na yun. I know I've only been here for 10 years, diba? But seeing Mindanao from 2013 to now, and seeing the importance of showing everybody and dedicating myself to sharing positive education about that part of the world, I believe that in itself is a life journey that I'm happy to grow old doing, and I feel has importance. And what I'll say to that is, I also remember driving down the street in Laguna in 2014. I pulled over on my scooter. A lady selling babinka, I went pabili po usa. She looked at me and said, "Oh, where are you from?" I said, well, in my broken Tagalog, taga Canada, pero nakatira dito sa Mindanao, Cagayan de Oro. Her first response was, "Usayaf." How can something that's 97,500 square kilometers, 27 million people, 27 provinces, you know, that's the 19th largest island in the world, the bigger than Ireland, how can that be described as Abu Sayyaf? Somebody who is Filipino, let alone. And then imagine, even my parents, chairperson, literally until 3 weeks before pandemic, my parents had never come to the Philippines. My parents were disappointed in me for being here, doing what I was doing. I almost sacrificed my relationship with my parents because I believed there was positive purpose in sharing about this part of the world. You know what happened? My parents, who really struggled with the thought of me being in the Philippines, because you know what they hear in Canada? Terrorism, natural disasters, negative political stuff. That's their education about the country. So my life here, what am I going to contribute? I'm going to do everything I can until I die. Here in the Philippines, if I don't get kicked out, to do everything I can to make a difference and fight back at that negative education that seems to be the majority, that isn't the majority here in the country.
Thank you for last
Mr.
follow-up
Chairman.
question. Yes.
Yeah, before you follow up that question, you can see the passion of this gentleman right here, how much he loves the country. How I wish our population gets even half the passion that this gentleman has for loving our country. And we have many friends and we go through politics. So we're in politics, we see thousands of individuals a day. And you can see the negativity that comes from them when we discuss our country. Here's a gentleman who truly believes in our country. I didn't know this gentleman 6 months ago, personally. I knew his blog because I followed him. I follow him in my official Facebook account. But he inspired me. That's one thing, that's what I loved about in that little vlog that he posted about a quiet area in Mindanao, which used to be a no-go zone 10, 15 years ago. And he's there promoting and saying, it's safe to be here, it's beautiful. And you even said it was a magical moment. It was a life-changing moment to see the sunset in these rice paddies in the middle of Mindanao. As a Mindanaoan, it really struck me so hard that here's a man talagang inaano niya ang Pilipinas. Pinopromote ang Pilipinas. Hindi lamang Pilipinas, ang mahal kong Mindanao. Kaya I sought him out when my wife said, I know him, you want to meet him? I want to meet him. I want to hug him. That was my first reaction because he was so positive in his promotion of our country, particularly in our area of Mindanao, which is so badly portrayed in movies. This is a recent movie I won't anymore mention, but other news outlets. But it's so beautiful. It is so peaceful. And we are so happy that we have somebody like Kyle here, Kulas, who's promoting not just our country, but all these off the beaten track areas. And I think that is his biggest contribution. Again, I said, we've approved naturalization of sports individuals, that sometimes we've regretted. Na after they finish their stint tour of duty, they leave. Wala naman silang pagmamahal. They just want to get their salary to work in the sports program in the Philippines. And once they're done, they go. Here's a gentleman who wants to live here, who wants to die here, obviously, who wants to have a life here, hopefully family and children. And I think there's no better way to reward him for all that he's done in the last 10 years than to give him citizenship. Yun lamang po, Mr. Chairman. I didn't know him from Adam 6 months ago, but I was inspired by him. And because of that, I wanted to meet him. That's how inspiring this gentleman is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Senate President. Yes, the co-author.
Very quick action. I failed to mention a while ago, Mr. Chairman. I failed to mention a while ago, Mr. Chairman, that I filed the same bill last Congress. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time last Congress for the citizenship of Kulas. If you were wondering how I met him and how we became friends, it's actually because of Congressman Len Alonte. As a politician, Mr. Chairman, marami tayong kaibigan but we have layers of friendship, no? And si Len is probably one of the closest to me. Very amiable, respected, etc. And so she told me about him, and I followed his vlogs. I followed what he's been doing for quite some time, for more than a year now, I suppose, Mr. Chairman. And what I have seen in his blogs are being manifested right now, right before our very eyes. He is so inspiring, and he is probably the most inspiring candidate for citizenship of this country, as far as I'm concerned. As I mentioned a while ago, Mr. Chairman, for 20 years, 2 beses lang ako nag-file ng citizenship. Isa ho dito si Kulas. At kaya kong sabihin ngayon na siya yung paborito kong final na citizenship, Mr. Chairman. Only because I think napupukaw, and I will use that word, pukaw. It's a Tagalog word. I come from the province of Francisco Balagtas. Kami yung magaling magbalagtasan, datapwat at maraming nakaririmarim na pananalita na minsan hindi kayang arukin ng ilang mga ordinaryong Pilipino. Ngunit gusto ko pong sabihin, Ginoong Chairman, na siguro maganda na pagka meron tayong bills na ipapasa for citizenship, dapat parte yung pagiging isang Pilipino na inspiring. Yung buhay ni Kulas, the way he talks, the way he presented himself, the way he... mararamdaman nyo po, Mr. Chairman, you can easily discern kung peke. You can easily discern kung show. You can easily discern if it's a gimmick. Kitang-kita po natin, daman-daman natin yung pagmamahal niya, hindi lamang sa ating bansa, kundi sa kultura natin, sa ugali natin, kung sino ba talaga tayo bilang isang Pilipino. Kaya I am proud to say, Mr. Chairman, just like our Senate President, I am also an author of this particular measure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader. We now proceed coming out of that passionate reactions coming from our dear colleagues. We buckle down to the business, Mr. Kulas. During the previous House hearings, remember, you must realize that this is a private bill. This must emanate from the House of Representatives. The committee will now take note of the statements made by several of our congressmen during that House hearings. I take note of the comment given by Congressman Rufus Rodriguez, also coming from Cagayan de Oro, your area. And I quote, Congressman Rodriguez's comment was that Philippine citizenship should not be easily given. What was your reaction then? It's from Cagayan de Oro.
When I heard that said in the congressional... I don't know if he was against it. I believe that when that was said, he was probably very much sticking up for something that is incredibly serious. And like I've told you as well, this was never a plan, me trying to get to this position being here. So I have the utmost respect for Congressman Rodriguez for saying something like that and ensuring that this is something that is actively thought about and debated and taken very seriously. So when he said that, I respected that.
You. So, no hard feelings towards Congressman Rodriguez.
After the third reading, the next day I was in plenary and they recognized me in Congress. And I shook the hand of Congressman Rodriguez, and shared some good lighthearted talk. And I have the utmost respect for everybody, both in Congress and here in Senate.
Thank you, Mr. Jennermann. Another member of the House, my counterpart, Congresswoman Juliet Ferrer, made the following statement, and I quote: "She is hoping, Congress is hoping, if the bill is approved, and I quote, that you will not be a burden to the country, that you will not commit any crimes, that Congress will not regret in the future the granting of your citizenship." Your reaction when that statement was made by the chairperson of the Committee on Justice of the lower house?
I will 100% do everything I can to be the absolute best Filipino I can be. And I would for a second not think about doing anything that would harm the Philippines, the Filipino people, or anybody around me in that regard. And for me, when that's said, again, I just have the utmost respect that those things are directly said to me, because they should be. So absolutely, I'm not planning on doing anything that would disappoint anybody and that would harm anybody or that would even put the Philippines in a bad light. Absolutely not. That would break the law. No, I've been driving a scooter all over the country. I interact both with the AFP and PNP all the time, and I have the utmost respect for them. I've learned a lot from them, and the last thing I want to do is be on the bad side of anybody involved in law enforcement here in the Philippines.
Thank you, Mr. Jennermann. I think your answer was that you are excited to think that you will grow old in the Philippines and that you will make everybody proud. Is that still your answer now?
100%. I believe personally
you will be a senior citizen here. You will grow.
Sure, yes, my greatest fear has always been if the country just kicked me out forever. I mean, literally, my entire life and being wants to be here. I want to do positive things with all of you and be a part of this place and share about it and be a part of doing positive things in the world. So, I mean, I believe that decades from now, if I don't die, knock on wood, that I will be able to look back and hope that everybody here will be very proud. And I believe I can make that happen. I believe I'm making that happen, and we'll continue to do that every day as long as I'm breathing.
Have you been married before, children before?
Never, no. And you know what? You know, when I hear something really interesting, my first few years here in the Philippines, I actually refused to date anybody. And do you know why? Because it made me sad. Every time I'd roam around, people would go, what are you doing here? I'd be like, oh, Pasha. And then they go, oh, who's your wife? I was like, what do you mean I don't have a wife? Oh, I'm girlfriends. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm here because it's a beautiful place and I love the people and I'm learning. And so actually I was very hesitant to date anybody, but then I met a Caviteña and now I'm sure she might be watching this right now, and I'm very nervous about her, to be honest, because Caviteñas, I heard, are very.
But there are beautiful women in Iligan and Cagayan de Oro and Quezon.
You know what though? I think that's one of the most fascinating things is, imagine nakatira ko Mindanao, pero I'm dating a Caviteña from Luzon. How did that happen? I guess it's just life, diba? It's like being here in front of you now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
The reason why I asked that question, and probably the Office of the Solicitor General can take note of this, is that we have several naturalized, through legislation, individuals becoming Filipinos with children from current marriages, previous marriages, and I'm looking at the status of those children. Will they be Filipinos? Will they be Americans? Still Americans? So the committee is contemplating on, with the presence of the Senate President here, having a revision of our existing laws concerning the progenies, the children of naturalized Filipinos born before they were naturalized. What would be the status? Can we make a law that would make them Filipinos likewise? There's no, I will be asking you later. There's no question concerning if Mr. Jennermann would be a Filipino and his Caviteña, that would, fiancé, that would be a Filipino citizen. But the previous relationships, so I'm contemplating on having our laws revised so that it would affect perhaps Senator Villanueva would be very interested. The son of Justin Brownlee would be a Filipino citizen who's now 10 years old. The son of Marcus Doubthit will likewise be a Filipino. Can you give us a 2-minute reaction, because I have a lot of administrative matters to deal with before we tackle the senior citizens bill, with the permission of Senate President. Paano po yan?
First of all, Your Honor, I'm appearing actually as an observer only. But if you're asking for my opinion, I'm very sure the OSG, I can't speak for the Solicitor General. So we will be more than willing to work with the Senate.
We will be revising the law.
It is possible.
We will be revising the
Yes.
law, making the sons and daughters of a naturalized Filipino citizen born before they were naturalized, likewise automatically Filipino citizens. Certain age, 10 years old or 7 years old. Kasi hindi po nila kasalanan na nag-Filipino yung tatay nila o yung nanay nila. Alam nga naman, iwan na sila doon sa Amerika. Di ba ho? So, yun po yung, and we have obligations, commitments. We have conventions on the rights of children. Hindi po pwedeng maiwan yun doon na iba yung passport ng anak nila. So, think about it. With the permission of the Senate President, yung po yung iniisip ng committee ito.
Yes po, and we could apply the principle of reciprocity if that other country can also adopt the principle of reciprocity if the other country also applies that rule in their country.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, the United States, when they grant you citizenship, I know a lot of Filipinos were granted this American citizenship. Their children can be already petitioned. It's an easier way to get citizenship after that. So we can do that, Your Honor. If you have a law that way, we'll support it.
Thank you, Mr. Senate President. Those listening virtually, siguro take note of that. Department of Justice, o kung sino pa yung nakikinig dyan. DOJ, USEC is listening, and the others. So we can proceed with the permission of our colleagues. This is an administrative process. You have a letter of intent submitted, correct?
Yes. Yes,
And we have that in our possession, signed by Mr. Kyle Douglas Zimmerman. This was dated, subscribed March 15, 2023. We'll have this marked as Exhibit A. Comsec, can you have this and be properly marked and introduce? Dito ka na, lumapit ka na. Make this part of the records. We have a clearance from the National Bureau of Investigation dated January 30. No record on file. NBI, are you present online, virtually? National Bureau of Investigation? If not, we'll take this as is, and the veracity of which would be accepted by this committee. Mark this as Exhibit B. Clearance issued by the Philippine National Police dated January 3, birthday ko pa, showing no record on file. Philippine National Police present here. May record po si Mr. Jennermann kahit traffic violations. General Abrenica, former Chief of Police of Tagaytay.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Good morning po. Based on our records, no record on file on behalf of our Sir Kyle.
He's been active in the social media, not even libel, anything related to that?
None, Your Honor.
None. So we accept the clearance coming from the Philippine National Police, have this mark as Exhibit C for the committee. We have a barangay clearance coming from, this is from Davao Oriental. I thought you're a resident of Cagayan de Oro.
Before, I used to live in Cagayan de Oro for the first 7 years, and then now we're Davao Oriental.
Katiil.
Katiil, oh, Mandaya.
typhoon belt. You're living in a typhoon belt as well as an earthquake belt.
Resiliency, right?
Yes. So we have a record here dated March 14, 2023. You're a law-abiding citizen, no fraudulent tax pending, no derogatory records. Make this part of the committee records as Exhibit D. We have a certification coming from the Bureau of Immigration that Kyle Douglas Jennermann from Canada does not appear in the Bureau's whole departure blacklist, watchlist. BID, are you virtually present, Scomsec? BID. BID. Nandiyan pa ho kayo?
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning. You are, can you identify yourself, ma'am? Attorney Kalingasan?
Charlene Kalingasan po from the Bureau of
Yes.
Immigration.
It came from your office?
No, Your Honor, but we will be likewise submitting a position paper, an updated
No.
version.
This came from the Bureau of Immigration. It's signed
Yes, Your
by
Honor, yes.
Attorney Vicente Uncad, Acting Chief, CC Section.
CCS. Yes, Your Honor, from the Bureau of Immigration as well.
So pinatutunayan niyo po na tama ito. Na
Yes,
wala
Your
siyang
Honor.
kaso. Ano po ang status niya ngayon? Is he a tourist visa holder? Is he a working visa holder? Is he a student or what?
Currently, yes, Your Honor. Currently, he's on 9A visa, valid
What is
until May 30. A tourist visa valid until May 30, 2023. It's a downgraded visa from a previously issued Section 9G or a working visa, which expired sometime in January 2000.
So can you explain that further? After May 30, if the committee has not yet concluded the hearing concerning his naturalization, what will happen to him?
He has the option of extending his tourist visa while here in the Philippines, or apply for a more permanent or a working visa for his functions here in the Philippines.
So he can have that extended.
Yes,
For
Your Honor.
for another how many months?
He has the option of extending it for a period of a month or 2 months, until for a period of 2 years, or a maximum residency without leaving the Philippines.
Because our the resumption of our session would be July.
No, May.
May. So his visa will expire May 30.
Yes, Your Honor. He has the option of extending. Otherwise, if he does not wish to extend his visa in the meantime, he can leave the Philippines as a tourist visa as long as the proper clearances have been processed.
You're nodding.
He doesn't want to leave.
If that extreme scenario happens and he doesn't want to leave, what will happen? You will have to drag him out?
No, Your Honor. As long as he has maintained a valid authorized stay or a visa here in the Philippines, he is welcome to stay here in the Philippines validly, sir.
For the records, what is the meaning of downgrading of one's visa status? Why was he downgraded?
He previously has...
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor. He previously has a working visa or a 9G visa. So if it's expiring already, from the records, Your Honor, it expired sometime in, let me check lang po. It expired on January 31, 2023. And since he's no longer extending or renewing his working visa, he is downgraded to a temporary visitor's visa.
I asked Mr. Jennermann, why was it? Was that your voluntary decision to be downgraded? Because you're working. You're a blogger.
So since I think 2015, I've been on work visas, and what happened is when I went to get this work visa we filed it, I believe, October 2018. It was only approved at the middle of the height of the pandemic, about 17 months later, and because of that, with it expiring on January 31st, I knew before that with all this happening in my life, there was going to be two options. Number one is we try and get another work visa, but that could take 17 months, give my passport, spend a lot of money. Or number two, if this never happens, even if right now, if I don't become a Filipino citizen, the next option for me would be to go for what's called a quota visa, which is to become a permanent resident in the Philippines, because our Canada gives permanent residency to Filipinos. So the issue, yeah, but again, the reason I hadn't filed that yet, and I accepted to downgrade just temporarily, as I believe it's in the letter of intent or in one of the, is because I had to see what happens here first because my passport then would be given to immigration. I would have to file other papers, and I didn't know if that would coincide with what's happening here. So that's why we temporarily downgraded.
The third option is TNT. You know what TNT is?
So that was why I've always been on a work visa up until just recently, but it coincided with these hearings and with what was happening. So we decided that the best option was just temporarily to be downgraded until this happened, and then to make the next decision.
Thank you. We marked this as thank you, Attorney Kalingasan. We marked
Yes,
this
Your
as
Honor. Likewise, Your
Exhibit B.
Honor.
And we await your position paper coming officially from the Bureau of Immigration.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Likewise, if I may, sir, we have an updated record also that as of April 13, 2023, the name Kyle Douglas Jennermann, born on 22 April 1988, still does not appear in the Bureau's whole departure, blacklist, watch list, and lookout bulletin records. That's all, Your Honor.
My question coming from the chair, has he left the Philippines ever since he entered the Philippines for the first time? May we ask the Bureau first? Umalis na ba siya ng Pilipinas? O hindi na siya umalis?
Yes, Your Honor. He has travels in and out of the country since his first arrival. Let me check lang po.
But legally, not
Yes, Your Honor.
Walang human trafficking, walang ano.
Wala naman po, Your Honor. All valid exits and admissions to the Philippines, Your Honor.
Yes. You can dispense with your with browsing the records. Mukhang makapal yung hinahawakan mo. Tumutulo ba dyan sa likod mo? May balde ka dyan. Ano ba yung nakalagay dyan sa...
May mini altar, Your Honor.
May sa baba, atras ka. No? Okay. Biro lang yan, Charlene.
From my records, Your Honor, immediate view po, he first arrived in the Philippines sometimes in January 18, 2013. And then he's been coming in and out of the Philippines under different visas. So there's valid departures and admissions to the Philippines, Your Honor. His most recent travel was on November 21, 2022. He arrived to the Philippines under a 9G visa po.
Went to what place?
He came from Bangkok, Thailand, Your Honor.
Bangkok. And I will ask him, what was your...
Actually,
it's
the Thai Tourism Authority and 300 travel writers from around the world were having a conference. So I went to do a keynote speech, which also talked highly about the Philippines and tried to fight back at travel advisories for the country. So I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave the country, honestly. I feel like I want to be here, but if I do leave the country, it has purpose that's positive back for the country. That's why I choose to leave.
To add to that, Mr. Chairman, because I saw that video of his giving a speech to the Thai, it was a travel tourism forum, and he was promoting the Philippines with slides about the Philippines. And sabi ko, wow, here's a foreigner promoting the Philippines in a travel show in another country. So we thank him for that. We'd like to thank him for that.
Perhaps we can ask the applicant to provide us with a photocopy of stamp documents to show where you came from. Because I'm looking at, have you been to Iran? Have you been to Afghanistan? Have you been to Libya? Have you been to Iraq or other banned countries? No intention of going there?
No intention, and I can actually, literally right now, my documents are coming here. They'll be in Senate late this afternoon, so those will be turned over to you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Comsec, take note of that. We now thank you, Attorney Kalingasan. We now go to Exhibit E, the certification coming from the Katiil Barangay. Mark this as Exhibit D, E, F. We have here a copy of your alien certificate of registration issued by the Bureau of Immigration as a worker, and this has been explained that it was already downgraded as a tourist visa. We mark this as Exhibit FG, Comsec, so mark that. And we have your birth certificate coming from, maganda palang birth certificate, Mr. President, ng sa Canada. Ang ganda, parang diploma. So, you would do away with this and have a Filipino citizenship with just a small, not even band size. This is like a diploma.
I actually I had never seen my mom and dad sent that to me. It's very I'm shocked at how it looks as well.
So have this mark as Exhibit H for the committee, COMSEC. And we have a copy of your marriage. We had a marriage search. So it appears that on file with the British Columbia Vital Statistics Agency. So here in the Philippines, we have Philippine Statistics Agency. You have their Vital Statistics Agency because we Filipinos, when we hear vital statistics, it's only in beauty contests. It's a different matter. So Vital Statistics Office, PSA, you're listening. PSA. Take note that what they have in British Columbia is vital statistics. A search was conducted. It appears that you have no records on file as to having a previous marriage. Is it correct? You admit this?
100%. I've never been married.
COMSEC marked this as Exhibit I for the committee. You have a copy of a certification issued by the Philippines. Tinaman naman yung Philippine Statistics Authority. Ang layo nung atin. Mr. Senate President, kupas na. PSA, you're listening. Sa kulay na lang. Can we improve our paper para maganda-ganda naman? So you have a PSA paper here showing that PSA, don't have a violent reaction there. We're just joking here. There is a certificate coming from the PSA that you are... Who is Marjorie Borrasca? There is a Marjorie Borrasca here.
It's that I believe that Statistics Authority must have been from Davao or something, or is that the person who's from the Statistics Authority? Or
no, a PSA clearance was issued upon the request of Marjorie.
Oh, okay. My attorney, my lawyer, under the attorney Havilena office, she went to pick up the file.
So it shows that you are not yet married here. So mark this as Exhibit J for the committee. And then we have here a copy of your passport. You arrive, but the committee still will wait for your other stamp pages, photocopies. You arrive, this is the original. Where is the original?
It's on its way here. It'll be here this afternoon, my original passport.
What do you mean it's on its way?
It's coming. So
Davao?
Yes, it's literally on its way here. It will be arriving by plane at 2 p.m. and come straight to Senate.
Okay. For the passport, the original. But the committee is directed to mark this as Exhibit HIJ for the committee. We have here a copy of your tourist visa issued by the Bureau of Immigration. Attorney Kalingasan, you're still listening. Signed upon orders of Norman Tansinko, the Bureau BID Commissioner, January 31, 2023. Correct? You
Yes,
affirmed you applied for this.
Yes.
This is the downgraded visa.
Yes.
So have this mark as Exhibit HIJK for the committee. Konti na lang to, Mr. Senate President. We have here a bank statement from the BDO. Yes, a bank statement showing you have a bank account with BDO, and you still maintain that account. Is it in Davao or in Cagayan de Oro?
I have an account in Tagum City, which is the closest city to Cataio, and an account in Cagayan de Oro.
No, but what we have here is Davao, Katiil. Is there a BDO in Katiil?
Davao del Norte. That should be Tagum City. I believe that was received, like I got it in Davao Oriental, even in Mati, but the account there is from Tagum City, Davao del Norte, and as well my other passbook would be Cagayan de Oro City.
Never been involved in money laundering?
Absolutely not.
Okay, because this is and And then have this marked as Exhibit HIJKL for the committee. Committee Secretary. BDO. This, you have a copy of a BDO passbook here issued by, this is Cagayan de Oro, Limket Kai. Cagayan de Oro or Tagum?
So the first one is from Tagum because I recently moved. So I still have my Cagayan de Oro account, but I moved over. That's why I still have
the bank cards.
Yes, so I have two bank cards, one for Cagayan de Oro, one for Tagum because I recently moved.
Thank you. And have this mark as Exhibit HIJKLM. Tama na ba ako? Yes, correct that if I'm wrong. The original receipt of your LTO, apparently you bought a private sports utility vehicle last March 21, 22. I thought you're riding a scooter.
I do, and then I flew out of a truck and I broke my clavicle and dislocated my shoulder and had to get surgery in Tagum City, which you can see it on the internet. So I couldn't drive a motor for a year. Yeah, so I had to. No, funny enough, I didn't get injured on a motor. I got injured in the back of a truck. I flew out of it. Basically I had to buy a vehicle because I couldn't drive my motor for a year. So that's why.
So you were involved in an accident, and you showed this through your YouTube.
You can actually see it on the internet, and the reason
is it good for the youth to
actually, you know what,
follow that?
It's important because
stumbling or of turning the vehicle.
I didn't show the accident itself. What I showed was my really positive recovery with Filipino doctors in Tagum City, where people thought it was dangerous to be in. So I showed them helping me and changing my life and fixing me.
So this is a Subaru Forester Highway Patrol. Any comment? Well, may records ba to? Wala.
No, Highway Patrol representative.
Walang Highway Patrol. So, saan nyo nabili to?
I bought that in Cagayan de Oro.
There are so many car shops in Cagayan de Oro.
The reason I bought that one was a friend of mine who used to work in the dried mango industry. He passed away due to COVID, and he used to drive around in a Subaru. And for me, I was lent his car from his family for a month after he passed away, and so it kind of made me feel positive having that type of vehicle.
A used car from your friend?
No, I bought this one from the dealership, but they gave me a good discount.
Cagayan de Oro, there are several Korean small pickups.
Yeah.
Cheaper.
Yeah.
Cheaper. So, just a joke. Antonio Catiil, certifying that she has known you for the last 3 years and that you decided to reside in Catiil. You are very amiable and assuming character and have known you for several years, that you are a person of good and reputable and blemished character worthy of emulation. Just curious, why did you not seek any certificate or affidavit of credible witness from Cagayan de Oro?
I believe there'll be two affidavits. One from another guy named Mark Yanez.
Yes, but Mark Yanez is also from Purok Narvi.
Because we live together in the same compound now, but he's my original friend and cameraman and barkada from Cagayan de Oro, if you look back. So he's been with me the entire journey since 2013.
Children willing to sign on a video.
Okay. So, COMSEC marked this as Exhibit P. Veronica Veroy Tradio and Mark Yanez for the committee. We have here a medical certificate. We have here a medical certificate coming from City of Mati.
Yes.
So why Mati? You're
when I found out about the Senate hearing, I had to, as fast as I can, try and get all the documents. So I was passing through Mati, so I then got it done in Mati and got the HIV test and everything.
So you had your drug test?
Yes, the HIV test, everything, all the tests, and I came across negative as expected.
Ever had a drug test conducted by the Philippine National Police?
I believe I must have at some point, a few times. It would come back negative. I don't do drugs, so yeah.
COMSEC, for future reference, we should have a drug clearance from the Philippine National Police. But we'll be accepting this from Mati. Your bank account is from Tagum. You live in Catiil. Your drug test is from Mati. So mark this as exhibit element of PQ. Thank you.
No.
We have an affidavit of undertaking signed by you that you're a holder of a work visa which expired and then downgraded to a tourist visa. But to remind you, it will expire May 30. And I'm not so sure with the presence of the Senate President here that we can finish this by May.
We can finish it, the promise to enroll copy, the printing, the 2 weeks in the publication. So he probably would get the bill signed by the president on June. So he has to apply for it.
You have to reapply. Otherwise, the Bureau of Immigration, they're listening. The PNP, they're listening. So you will be converted into a TNT. And if you violate Philippine laws, all your submissions would be will go down the drain.
I can assure you I will be extending that well in advance.
Thank you. Thank you. So mark this as exhibit R. And I have a letter here addressed to me from you. Sworn statement, a letter that it has something to do with your income tax returns. Today or yesterday was the day of the deadline for filing income tax returns. May you inform this committee as to the status of your income tax returns?
So all of my income is derived from the internet and literally just YouTube. And it's completely like I don't have any client sponsors, company sponsors. I'm not paid by any Filipino companies right now or anything. So my income, which is derived from the internet, is also derived from the overseas, and I'm taxed on it overseas, and I pay tax, and then that's it. It's actually, Honorable Chairperson, I'm excited for the future, if I am a Filipino, to work with all agencies in this new online generation to figure out the best practices and ways and be fully involved in sharing about that online.
Work visa before. Did you file a timely income tax return?
It would have been filed by the production company I would have worked with back. The problem about the past 3 years is I filed for a work visa in October of 2018. It was only approved at the very beginning, actually in the middle of the pandemic. And the company I was going to do work with, we decided, since it had taken so long and it had been paid for and everything, that I basically would just consult for them for online for free to maintain my status. And I just earn my money through the internet, through YouTube, as I always have, and pay tax on it.
Committee Chair have this marked as Exhibit S for the committee. And I have here a letter addressed to the House of Representatives coming from your parents. And what's the content of the letter? Don't be passionate about this. But
if you can read the last line, I believe it says, "We are."
The last line is, "Thank you for reviewing this note, which we hope highlights the love of Kyle has for a land he has taken to heart. We are proud of our son and his Filipino life. Carol and Klaus Jennermann." Your parents?
Yes, so my parents...
They were against your staying here?
My parents had the ultimate fear of the Philippines and my life here. And now when they wrote that, it was what I consider one of the greatest things that's ever happened in my life. So I wanted to include it because...
Have you told your parents that you're an adopted son of our Senate President? Brother?
I asked my parents if they would write something to support me. They found that very difficult because it's like giving away your son, diba? But they did it, and I felt it was very important to include that because, again, it means a lot to me. So, thank you.
Salamat. I have here a bunch of records, additional documents, letter of support from your parents, pictures showing you Mr. Kyle Jennermann during relief operations when Typhoon Odette hit the country, a copy of your cedula. You know what cedula is?
Yeah, cedula is the thing I pay for being out of the town in Cataio, the taxation.
You got your cedula from Catil or Cagayan de Oro?
Cataio now.
Catil. And a copy of your driver's license here. You have a driver's license?
I have it here in my wallet.
Okay. Can you provide us a photocopy
Yes.
for the appreciation of this committee? A picture of you helping during air relief operations?
That's in Dinagat after Odette.
Where?
That's in Dinagat Islands after Typhoon Odette. I spent Dinagat.
Dinagat.
So that was in. I also worked with the AFP there as part of it.
Mention the AFP when you become a Filipino citizen. Are you willing to join the reserve force of the Philippine Army?
If that's a way I can serve the country, absolutely, yes.
You're under oath.
Yes, you know what? Honestly, anything that I can do to be a positive impact with the country in the Philippines, absolutely, I will do it. And I have the utmost respect for various people working with the AFP. I had the opportunity, my place in Cataio, the wife of, I think he's the head of Eastman-Com, Almaral, General Greg Almaral, his wife came to visit us in Cataio because I became a friend of
So you're willing to join the CAFGU? Philippine Army.
I feel that my greatest way to fight is with the positive education. I feel like that's where my calling is, but absolutely, I will do whatever I need to do to be the best.
General Manuel of the Philippine Army Reserve will call you up if this turns out positive to make you part of the Philippine Army Reserve Command.
Oh.
Are you willing to do that?
Absolutely, yes.
Under oath.
Sure.
Yes, thank you. So mark this as exhibit.
I want to put on record that the gentleman you're talking to is the only general in the reserve, Army reserves in the Senate. He's actually a general.
Wow.
Brigadier General.
So all the additional documents submitted would form part as exhibit T for this committee. So, Mr. President, Mr. Jennermann, we have more or less accepted all the documents you provided. We will await the submission of your original passport. We will await the photocopy of your driver's license. We expect that you would file an extension for your tourist visa. Any comments coming from the Department of Justice online? DOJ? DOJ, Undersecretary?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor. The Department of Justice interposed no objection to the grant of citizenship to Mr. Jennermann, Your Honor.
Thank you. And take note of my earlier proposal concurred in by the Senate President concerning the children of those naturalized. PSA, any comment? Thank you, DOJ. PSA? PSA?
Yes, sir. PSA has no objection on the application for naturalization of Mr. Sorry, sir.
Yes, thank you. Office of the Solicitor General. Speak in behalf of the Solicitor General. Attorney Magbanwa.
We object, Your Honor.
You?
We object, Your Honor.
You object? And the reason being?
We feel that he hasn't proven his ability to contribute economically in the Philippines, considering that he does not have regular income.
Attorney, Mr. Chairman.
We take note of the objection coming from the Office of the Solicitor General.
But
the Senate President would like to
before we take
a quick reply. But Attorney, may we expect a written objection coming from your side?
Yes.
Explaining the reasons for the objections.
Attorney, is this your first time to the public hearing? Is this your first time to a hearing on, particularly on citizenship?
Yes, Your Honor. But
This is your first time, yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
But in previous hearings for citizenship, do you also object as a policy?
No, it's a case-to-case basis.
Okay, with Marcos Douthat, because I was the author, did you object to Marcos Douthat's citizenship to be a basketball player for the Philippines?
I was not the one who attended.
Correct, because they did not object at that time. But he no longer lives here. I think he lives abroad, back in the US. When it came to who was after him? Other citizenship that were given, Blanche, did you object to the citizenship of Blanche and naturalization?
I was not here. I'm not.
They did not object to the citizenship. He's no longer in the Philippines. He's back in the United States, madam. That is the difference between this gentleman and all the others that we've given naturalization for. If it is a policy of yours, I will understand if it is a policy of the OSG to object for each and every one that has not proven, because obviously we've naturalized so many signed by the president into law, and now they're no longer active members of the society in our country, then I will understand. But for this particular issue, it boggles my mind, or this gentleman here that did so much for our country, promoting our country, not even being paid for it, and then there's an objection coming from you, and I don't think it's the Office of the Solicitor General, unless there is a Office of Solicitor General, because you cannot answer on your behalf, you can only give your opinion, unless you have a certification there coming from the Office of the Solicitor General, coming from Attorney Maynard Guevara himself. Maynard Guevara, yes, I know him because we were together in the Duterte administration. Then it is only of your opinion, Your Honor, unless there is a letter here from Attorney or Secretary OSG, the Solicitor General Guevara, then that is of the opinion of this lady, Your Honor, of Attorney.
Mr. Chairman, that's also what I wanted to ask, because a while ago when the distinguished lady from the OSG made a statement, she said it's only her opinion, not the position of OSG. So now, with the questions asked by our distinguished chair, is it the opinion again of the distinguished lady from OSG, or is it the position of OSG? Because I myself, just like the Senate President, concerned po tayo, Mr. Chairman, dun sa anong klaseng polisiya ba meron ang OSG. Thank you.
So let's put it on record, Mr. Chairman. This is your personal opinion and not the opinion of the agency. Is that correct? Unless you can show us today a certification coming from the Office of Solicitor General himself.
If Your Honor, please, earlier I manifested that I'm appearing only as an observer. But since, in deference to the chairman, I was participating in the discussion. And earlier, when I was asked about whether the citizenship of Mr. Jennermann should be granted, I submit that it is my opinion only, since although we received an invitation from the Senate to participate in today's public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, it is not on record that she made mention that it's her opinion. Before you asked her, Mr. Chairman, you were asking PSA, the position of PSA, the position of the Bureau of Immigration. And when you asked the position of OSG, she made mention that she is objecting. So let's put it on record, Mr. Chairman, that it is her personal opinion and it's not the position of the Office of the Solicitor General. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Your Honor, we submit.
Before we continue, I'd like to ask the representative coming from the Office of the Solicitor General. During the hearings conducted before the House of Representatives, were you the same representative?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. And during the hearings conducted before the House of Representatives, are you aware of the position given by the Office of the Solicitor General?
No, Your Honor.
So the position given by the Office of the Solicitor General was for a positive endorsement for the citizenship. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Jennermann. What was the answer then of the Office of the Solicitor General, as far as you can recollect?
During the congressional hearing, there was no objections from any agencies as far as I remember.
Yes, so it would appear, Mr. Senate President, Majority Leader, that no offense to the representative here of the OSG, that your agency then was of the opinion that they are supportive of this application. It would be better before coming here, if you're authorized, even if it's a last-minute authorization, that you seek clearance from your immediate superiors as to the previous position given by the Office of the Solicitor General, and the extent of your authority, whether you can object personally and commit the agency itself as to your position. There's a big difference between your personal opinion and the opinion of the agency. But in fairness to your previously given statement, this committee will allow you to have a 2-minute conversation with your superiors if you would like to call them as to the statements, verify as to the statements given before the House of Representatives. We'll give you time. We will have you assisted and call your immediate boss. Your immediate boss is Solicitor General 1 or Solicitor General?
Bernardo Guevara.
You can call him and ask what was the position given during the House of Representatives hearing and the position now. So we can facilitate this.
If we
And we can then verify that.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
If we did not object in the Congress, is it prohibited for us to object when it's in the Senate already?
There has to be a compelling reason why the OSG would change its opinion or decision.
Exactly, Mr. Chairman. I was going to say, you cannot change after a couple of months unless he has a derogative record on him now. Because it is very difficult for you to dilly-dally or flip-flop on your decision a few months ago and today, unless it is the policy of, again I said, unless it is the policy of the OSG to object on naturalization, then that is fine. Unless there is a prevailing reason why they would object, being that he has a derogatory record, then that is fine. But he does not have any, and it was not objected in the last hearing. And I believe the statement of Attorney Magbanwa is on her own personal opinion. I'd not like to dwell on that matter because it's just taking up so much of our time. I am no longer able to attend the hearing of Bato on the Degamo Slay case. I think the proper motion at this point in time, Mr. President, with due respect, is that we approve on committee level, of course, pending the submissions given this afternoon by this gentleman on the requirements, the citizenship of Mr. Kyle Jennermann. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I will second the motion of the Senate President. And before I do that, let me state for the record my disappointment, Mr. Chairman, that this is a Senate hearing. This is not an ordinary PTA meeting, Mr. Chairman, where anybody can represent any government agency and would speak their minds, Mr. Chairman. I think it's very important to note that this is a Senate hearing. We are actually, Mr. Chairman, this is my third Senate hearing today. I was with Senator Legarda, I was with Senator Bato kanina, Mr. Chairman, and it's already 12 noon, Mr. Chairman, and we were supposed to be on break today. But we know the importance of these measures that we are taking up here in the Senate. So I hope, Mr. Chairman, that this will be a reminder not only to OSG office but also to all government agencies. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, and my final, before we take up the pending motion, my final statement is: why is it so difficult to become a Filipino citizen? Why is it so difficult? How many of you here, raise your hands, who have relatives who are abroad, who want to live abroad, who want to apply for Canadian citizenship, Australian citizenship, New Zealand citizenship, other citizenships, and they're getting it? Why is it so difficult for people to become Filipino? Diba? Anong meron sa atin sa bansa na talagang pinahihirapan natin yung iba? Yung ayaw natin yung mga undesirable aliens, ayaw natin yung mga pogo, ayaw natin yung pagdadala dito ng mga vices, yung mga masasamang gawain, mga sindikato, yan ang ayaw natin. Pero for anyone who wants to live in the Philippines, who wants to retire here, who wants to do business here, why are we giving them such a hard time when other countries are embracing our citizens, the one that's fueling our economy, the 10 million Filipinos working all over the world? We should look ourselves in our face. Why are we making it so difficult for them, Canadians, Americans, and others, Italians who want to come here and become Filipino citizens, when we have such a large population in their country working there and taking advantage of the situation? That's why I believe in reviewing the Bureau of Immigration law. Dapat that's a 1935 law. The law on the Bureau of Immigration or the immigration law is a 1935 law when the Philippines was number one. When we were a number one country in Asia. We were like Japan. Kaya mayabang tayo. And ngayon, hirap tayo eh. We're a developing country. Why will we make it so difficult? That's why I'm in favor of amending the immigration law to make it easier for citizenship and naturalization. Napakahirap maging Pilipino. Napakahirap. And I think we should now look at the law, amend it to look at desirable aliens who want to come to the Philippines. We should give them an opportunity. They don't have to know a congressman. They don't have to know a senator to become a citizen. Biro mo, maghahanap ka pa na kaibigan na congressman para maging citizenship, mag-apply na citizenship, or you do it judicial. Judicial way is very difficult as well. It takes almost 5 years to get the judicial citizenship applying to the judiciary. Sabi ko, bakit napakahirap? Ang dami-daming artista at mga Pilipino na yun, naging Spanish citizen na. They want to become Spanish citizens. Are there any objection from the OSG for that? That they're leaving the Philippines to become Spanish citizens? None. Because we want everybody to have an equal opportunity in life. And that is why I've always said this. When there are desirable aliens like Mr. Kyle Jennermann here, again, I said, was inspired me personally to renew my love for Mindanao and my love for the Philippines. These are the kinds of people that we need in our country. He's a Canadian. Why will he want to be Filipino? Lahat ng mga kakausap ko gusto maging Canadian citizen. Ganda-ganda ng medical care nila dun. They have good medical care. They've got good, subsidies given by government. They live in a peaceful community. They've got land as far as the eye can see that is so cheap. But here's a guy who positively wants to come to the Philippines and make a difference and try to get the 10 million OFWs to love the Philippines once again, come back maybe one day and let their children feel what it is being a proud Filipino. That's why I salute him. And we should not discourage people like him from coming to the Philippines. That's all, Mr. Chairman, and I move for the previous motion.
The motion duly seconded, but we respect your personal opinion and the committee will await a written rationalization of what you just said. So, as moved by the Senate President and seconded by the Majority Leader, Senate Bills 1500 and 1509, granting Philippine citizenship to Kyle Douglas Jennermann, is hereby approved and elevated to the plenary.
Mr. Chairman, minute suspension.
was the number 6816, 639, 582, and 1408. Resource persons virtually present, take note that we will tackle 4 bills. This has something to do with the act providing protection to the elderly against abuse, neglect, and exploitation, and prescribing penalties for violations thereof, introduced by Senator Gatchalian, and Senate Bill 639, an act defining and prohibiting senior citizens' abuse, providing penalties therefore, introduced by Senator Angara. Senate Bill 582, an act defining and prohibiting elder abuse, providing penalties therefore, and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Hontiveros. Senate Bill 1408, an act protecting senior citizens from violence, defining elder abuse, and prescribing penalties therefore, introduced by Senator Ramon Bong Revilla Jr. Mr. Comsec, do we have new resource persons present that would entail the oath? Pareho rin, same. So, Constitution provides that the state values the dignity of every human being. Constitution provides, Section 4, Article 15, that the family has the duty to take care of its elderly members, but the state may also do so through just programs of social security. So this bill was 4 bills were filed to prevent elder abuse. And elder abuse is a term referring to any knowing, intentional, or negligent act by a caregiver or any other person that causes harm or a serious risk of harm to a vulnerable adult. Ito po ay for the protection of our senior citizens. Originally, a House bill was filed, 4696, calling for the establishment of senior citizen help desk in every barangay to provide immediate assistance to victim survivors of elder abuse. Before we proceed, I would like to ask those physically present that you can have your lunch while we're having a hearing. This is going to be a working lunch. As per the Commission on Human Rights, there is a generally lack of consensus as to the definition of elder abuse. Kaya walang data. Wala tayong data, which contributes to the lack of data for policymakers to draw from. I hope the Philippine National Police can also provide us data. But there is no, right now, there is no specific offense concerning elder abuse. And so the hearing being conducted today is to come up with a general policy and law as to what is elderly abuse is and how to make this an offense that would really prevent and prevent abuse, protect our our senior citizens from being subjected to this abuse, which is actually unknown, uncalled, unregistered. That's why we don't have a data, because we Filipinos are still clannish and protect our family members. That it is perhaps shameful yet for Filipinos to speak up that a father, a son, a lolo, an uncle, a tita are subjected to an elderly abuse by members of the same family. So that's why we don't have records. PSA, we don't have records. But there are records coming from other countries that would note that in the Asia Pacific region, older persons often felt ashamed of their abuse and neglect experiences and therefore choose not to report them, especially because majority of the cases, perpetrators are family members whom older persons rely for care. If you report, baka maputol yung tulong. So, ang hirap po nito. Ang hirap po nito sa harassment, physical injuries, torture, killings. Minsan, yung iba, mas mahal pa yung pets. No offense to the animal lovers. Yung iba, mas naalagaan pa yung mga, di ba ho? Ang dami mga, no offense to, kaibigan po natin lahat yan. There are animal protection laws, shampoos, lahat. And then, you have elderlies being taken care of by other non-members of the family. And it's now a thing in the Philippines. Slowly growing. There is I don't know if it is good. We will ask the resource persons later. There are now, sa amin sa Tagaytay, pati sa Silang, there are now house for the elderlies. It's now a booming business. I don't know if it is registered with the Department of Social Welfare and Development or the DTI. There are secondary parents taking care of our grandparents right now, and it's a booming industry in some areas. It might be referred to as secondary care facilities for some, but is it abandonment? Is abandonment abuse? Is neglect of family members considered as an abuse? We will tackle this today. So we first recognize the Chief Executive Officer of the Senior Citizens Commission, if that's the right nomenclature, to have his statement concerning the four bills under consideration today. Attorney Franklin Quijano, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to all the resource persons. We would like to commend the Committee on Justice and Human Rights for this very important effort of being proactive. Even as the chairperson says that this thing is not frequent in our society, we realize that we need to be proactive. And even as I was informed only yesterday, Your Honor, of this hearing, I really saw to it that I will be present this today because we will be submitting a position paper, and we really see the importance of this. In fact, even in our program, Your Honor, there is a program that we have defined as SECURE, Senior Citizens Unit for Rights Enforcement, because we believe that not only are we deserving of the human rights and the health rights and the benefits, including the 20%, but more importantly, Your Honor, I think care and the passion for loving each other should be considered more importantly in the family. We are worried that our data will increase. The demographics, Your Honor, will be about 12 million for this year. But 20 years from now, Your Honor, it's going to be about 24 million. More senior citizens would therefore need the attention of this country. And I think the primary unit that should be able to handle the senior citizens, Your Honor, would be the family. So we also hope, Your Honor, that we should include in this bill the dialogue process, a transformative system by which some restorative procedures should be able to come in if there are issues not only on, because we have to distinguish verbal abuses and the physical abuse, Your Honor. 2 weeks ago, Your Honor, we received reports from Pangasinan that there was an issue of an abuse. But then when we tried to follow it up, we realized that the parties made up, and so they forgave each other. And there was no physical abuse. It was just verbal abuse. But just the same, Your Honor, we would like to advance that we really respect and salute the efforts of the Senate Committee on Justice and Human Rights. And we'll be submitting our position paper, Your Honor.
Thank you. We expect to receive your position paper. I think as a start, this is not the final hearing. We will have another hearing because we have to really come out with definitions here: psychological abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, including battery, harassment, and and the wide context of how senior citizens should be protected. So, COMSEC, did we invite the Commission on Human Rights?
Yes, sir.
Are they physically present?
No, sir, they did not confirm.
Oh, so we have to have the Commission on Human Rights here. So we expect your position paper, Attorney Quijano, and we expect that soonest, because this is, I think, the reason why we don't have enough data is, again, as I've stated, this is unreported, kept in secret within the confines of one's residence. No one will really report to the police that a grandfather or a grandparent, a grandmother was left alone inside the house when the entire family went to Boracay during the Holy Week, long weekend. Nobody would report that. Nobody would report that the grandparent is being left inside the confines of the residence under the pretext of protection against COVID-19 infection, when the entire family would go to the mall. No one would report that, not even the grandparent. Nobody will report that the grandparent was left behind when the entire family went to a reunion in Iligan or in Pagadian, because it would be too burdensome to have the grandparent included in the mobility efforts. So ito yung mga abuse na hindi na nakikita at hindi na nare-report, but it happens. Wala naman nag-report sa police. May we know the stand of the Department of Social Welfare and Development?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The DSWD is now crafting also the position paper regarding the proposed bill, and it should be aligned also with the mandate of our.
Preliminarily, you have an office dedicated to the needs of children, women, but for senior citizens. Is this part of the function of the DSWD?
Mr. Chair, we have programs for senior citizen, although the other one, the SOCPEN, is with the NCSC already, the social pension. But we have programs like the centenarians, residential care facilities, and also
when you reach 100
AICs.
age, you'll be given 100,000.
Also the AICs, sir.
No. I'm talking the continuing daily prevention of neglect and psychological abandonment.
Prevention, it's more on the after what happened to the senior citizen. Like
if it is unreported, how do we address this?
I think that's the gap, sir. Unreported.
What's the stand up preliminarily? What's the stand of the DSWD?
We support, sir, the proposed bill, and
have you studied the bills? Consideration?
We already drafting the position paper, sir.
So when do we expect that?
I'll just check it, sir, with our superior if when to give the position paper in coordination with the secretariat, sir.
Yes, because DSWD has been known for debriefing, psychological therapy, but has this been done?
If it is reported, sir, yes.
The problem really is how to track that. So we expect the position paper WD soon. Next week? What about the we get the opinion of the senior citizens party list? Attorney Charles de Belen.
Your Honors, before I begin, we wish to express, Chairman Ordanes wish to express his deepest gratitude that we were able to find a partner and a champion that will champion this bill through the Senate floor before the chair and his committee. The reason why we filed the bill in the first place was because when we came across a study of Dr. Ko, who used the WHO guidelines and definition of elder abuse, she found out that 40% of elderly in the urban poor areas suffer from some form of elderly abuse. And of those 40% who suffered from abuse, 2%, only 2% of them reported this incident to authorities. That's why there's severe underreporting. 11% of them turned to their families for support, and 21% of them did not even find any support or refuge. That's why it has been our position that the only way to solve the underreporting and as well as assist senior citizens with this predicament is to promote the programs outlined in the bill. Because when we look at the bill, it's not just defining elderly abuse, it's promoting programs such as training programs for our law enforcement, mandatory reporting of elderly abuse, shelter, counseling, rehabilitation of our elderly, a senior citizen help desk that I know Chairman Quijano is also advocating for in the NCSC, as well as protection orders that will now be prioritized in courts. So we hope with the aid of this committee and our resource persons that we are able to usher and forward this bill through the Senate floors. Maraming salamat po.
Can you expect again your position paper?
I will coordinate with Chairman Ordanes regarding this and coordinate with the Secretariat when we can deliver. Thank you.
Preliminarily, this your committee, this representation specifically, would want to have the notion of state abuse committed on elderlies. If the government would neglect its functions, if the government would not be timely in its assistance, if the government would not give priority to the elderlies during state of calamities, is it considered state abuse? Is the government liable? Will the government be liable? Will government agencies be liable? Kung pinabayaan ng lumapit na sa DSWD, bumagyo na. Pag alam niyo pag sa isang evacuation center, pag nagbigay ng mga pagkain, nauna siyempre malalakas. Kahit gawin ng DSWD na listahan, ganito, pamilya. Una-unahan yun dun eh. Siyempre mauna yung mga bata, malalakas. Kahit magrambulan dun, makakarami yung ano. Yung senior citizen, nasa likuran yun. Is that considered as an abuse? Diba? Kawawa talaga sila. Sila yung nasa likuran. Siyempre mauna dun yung mga, no offense to the able-bodied mga kabataan, sila yung dalawa pa yung makukuha nun. Pagbigayan, lalo na pag mga private organization. So, can the private organization also be considered as the offender? So, ito yung mga pag-aaralan natin dito. Committee Secretariat, take note of that. Wala yun sa bill. Wala yun sa bill. Before I ask the Office of the Solicitor General, I'll be asking the police officers present here. Dito ba ho sa mga nagdaang panahon, may mga nag-report ba ng abuse sa mga matatanda? Ang magre-report ho nito, dalawa. Yung matanda mismo, which is very hard, paano naman siya makakapag-report, or through an apo, or a relative na magre-report. Abuse. Natandaan natin nung sa online sabong, marami mga nagtatrabaho FW, sinamantala na yung pinapirma na lang ng deed of sale na titulo, pampantaya doon sa online sabong, mga senior citizens. Maraming ganun eh. Nagtiwala na lang, pati yung bank account, gano'n. Kasi ang senior citizen, minsan, pag matanda na, mag-joint account. Pag nag-joint account, yung ka-joint account na bata na pinagtiwalaan, ay minsan yun ang that's an abuse. Ay naubos na yung, hindi naman pupunta yung senior citizen para i-check yung kanyang, hindi naman marunong, marami doon, hindi marunong tumingin ng card. Kung paano, wala nang laman. Maraming ganon, unreported. Naka-encounter na ba ang ating kapulisan ng ganon? Yes, sir. Anybody can speak for the Philippine National?
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Before I will answer, sir, your question, allow me to read the opening statement.
At yung iba po, kung pwede ho, magtanghalian. Otherwise, baka masubject kami sa abuse. Hindi kayo pinakain.
Allow me, sir, Your Honor, to read the opening statement of the PNP in support of the Senate bill re-anti senior citizens abuse act. To the Honorable Chairperson, Senator Francis Tol Tolentino, and the members of the Special Committee on Justice and Human Rights, and to all the attendees present here, good afternoon. In behalf of the Chief Philippine National Police, Police General Rodolfo Azurin Jr., I am Police Brigadier General Cosme Abrenica, the Executive Officer of the Directorate for Investigation and Detective Management of the Philippine National Police. Filipinos are known for giving love and respect to its elders. From the gesture of saying po, opo, and giving mano, it is undeniable that we really care for our elders and we put importance of ensuring their safety and welfare. However, there were instances that our elders were subjected to violence and abuse. As part of the state's obligation to protect its citizens, especially the children and the elderly, it is high time that legislation like Senate Bills 582, 639, 816, and 1408 be enacted to give due protection to our senior citizens. It is for this reason that we, at the Philippine National Police, would like to manifest our full support to the aforesaid Senate bills. Lastly, we would like also to extend our gratitude to this honorable committee for inviting us to become part of this noble undertaking to enact meaningful and timely legislation that complements the Philippine National Police mandate to ensure public safety and security. That would be all, Mr. Chair. And to continue to answer, Mr. Chair, your question about kung meron pong mga reports, we have the data, sir, since January 1, 2016 to present here, a total of 182,653 incidents involving senior citizens as victims.
Marami pala yan.
Yes, Your Honor, it's based on our data. And just to give you background, from 2016, we have 32,897. Then from 2017, 31,110. 2018, 28,397. 2019, no mag-pandemic po, 29,820. But then nagkaroon po siya ng malaking pagbaba ng insidente from 2019 to 2020, from 29,820 to 18,466. A total of 11,354 decrease. And 2021, bumaba po siya from 18,000 to 17,735. 2022, 20,464. And from January to April 16, just yesterday, 2 days ago, we have 3,764 incidents.
Most of those incidents would be what? Robbery, physical assault.
Also, sir, based on our records, ang top 5 incidents po na nangyayari, yung reckless imprudence resulting to damage to property, reckless imprudence resulting to physical injury, then followed by theft, then reckless imprudence resulting to homicide, and also robbery. So, manotice po natin, perhaps ang isang assessment po namin kung bakit bumaba from 2019 to 2020, kasi base po sa data nga natin, reckless imprudence, so naano po tayo sa bahay, so hindi sila masyado nang nakakagalaw. So doon po tayo nagkaroon ng biglang pagbaba ng ating cases.
Can this committee be provided with a copy of the report you just cited?
Yes, Your Honor.
So the committee secretary is directed to retrieve from General Abrenica the report he just cited and make that part as Exhibit A for this committee while we await the other position papers. Anything more, sir, General? Meron ba hong incident na yung elderly was assaulted and lumaban din kahit elderly na as a sign of self-defense? Meron ba hong ganon? O talagang talo lagi?
Madami pong cases actually dito na reported sa namin. Medyo, I think I will review it, but then most of the time po, nagiging victim talaga ay ang ating elders.
Solicitor General, Department of Justice, if you're listening, and who else? Commissioner on Human Rights, if you're listening. This committee is contemplating on COMSEC, if you're listening, amending perhaps the revised penal code to make an assault, intentional assault, on an elderly as an aggravating circumstance. If you can study that as an aggravating circumstance. Kasi wala nang kalaban-laban yung... It comes to my mind, the incident that happened in New York, although in another jurisdiction, wherein an Asian, a Filipina grandmother was assaulted by a 6'2" black male. Wala talaga kalaban-laban yon. Binugbog tapos nanonood lang yung iba. That's an aggravating circumstance. Daylight, kuha ng CCTV camera. Bagsak sa sidewalk. Pasok siya sa loob ng building, ginulpi uli siya, pinagsisipa. So think about that, DOJ, OSG, and the committee secretary. Anything more, General Abrenica? You're raising your hand, General Calanoga.
Yes, sir. With
yes,
with your indulgence, Honorable Chairperson, sir. May experience lang po ako, sir, na there was an incident kung saan ang minor was provoking an elderly. Then, siyempre, matanda na yun, sir, medyo, kumbaga, hindi na rin maganda, sir, yung mental condition niya, na sigawan at nasaktan niya yung bata. As a consequence, kinasuhan siya nung parents nung bata. So you're referring to the reverse. Ngayon naman, yes, ang offender ay yung elderly. Yes, sir. Meron din ganon? Meron din ganon, sir. Okay. So dapat i-reconcile natin, sir, yung protection law for children saka yung protection ng elderly, na hindi dapat ganon ka-adverse ang kaso pag elderly ang involved, lalo na pag ang biktima bata din na maraming makukulit na bata, sir. At kawawa po yung mga matatanda pag sila po yung ikinulong natin, i-process pa natin for inquest, tapos wala silang pampiyansa, wala po a choice yung police, kundi kulong po yung matanda. Tandaan niyo po yung sa Pangasinan several years ago, yung matanda kumuha lang ng mangga. Yung kumuha na mitas ng mangga, siya pa yung nakulong. Pero, General Abrenica, the figures you cited were these elderlies contemplate made part of the records because they were elderlies or coincidental lang na sila yung victims. Because this would be hard to define. Baka naman the abuse, instances of elder abuse were cited just because they were elderlies. So hindi naman siguro ito matanda na ito yung gulpihin natin. Ito yung nakawan natin. So baka naman nagkataon lang na kahit elderly yung nasa bahay, talagang magkakaroon ng stabbing. So meron bang differentiation na ganun?
Actually, sir, based on sa records namin, minsan nagkakataon lang, sir, na nagiging biktima itong ating matatanda. So, I would like also to present to the Honorable Committee yung status po ng victims natin, at least for your appreciation. Out of 182,653, doon po sa insidente, 11 po yung namatay, 11,509. And then yung po January 1, 2016 to present, yung injured po ay 55,651 and unarmed ay 115,493. So yun po yung natin. But then to answer again your question, meron po dito nga mga insidente nagiging biktima based on the circumstances na hindi po sinasadya. Ano po? Kaya lang ito po lahat na kuha ng data namin ng aming crime incidents analysis na pumapasok daily based on the reports from our lower units from the stations. Thank you po, Your Honor.
What about the Directorate for Intelligence? Any words on this?
Sir, good afternoon. Basically, sir, yung about the Directorate for Intelligence, wala kaming direct concern, sir, when it comes to sir, yung incidents regarding yung elderly. What General Abrenica and General Calanoga has already cited is the same data that we have, sir.
The same true perhaps for the legal. So, ang hirap ngayon i-differentiate yung pinasok yung bahay dahil alam nilang walang kalaban-laban yun nandun. Or pinasok yung bahay dahil nagkataon lang na may elderly. Kahit may bata doon o elderly, magkakaroon ng stabbing incident. So, this should be part of the position papers that you will be submitting. And if DOJ is listening, DOJ, nandiyan ka pa? DOJ,
Yes, Your Honor.
nakikinig ka naman, ano, kung ano yung pinag-uusapan dito?
Yes, indeed, Your Honor. Of course, Your Honor.
So, is there any preliminary position coming from the DOJ concerning this?
Yes, Your Honor. And
What is that position?
Allowed to read the same, Your Honor.
Can you speak louder? Come closer to the microphone.
Yes, Your Honor. May I be allowed to read the position
Yes,
paper,
yes.
Your Honor?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. At the outset, the DOJ...
Can you identify yourself? Can I, Ventura, Attorney Ventura?
Yes, indeed, Your Honor. I'm State Counsel Don Rick Ventura, Your Honor.
Please proceed.
At the outset, the DOJ interposes no objection to the enactment of the bills, which seeks to protect senior citizens from abuse and violence. The proposed legislations appear to be in complete agreement with Section 4, Article 15 of the 1987 Constitution, which provides the family has the duty to care for its elderly members, but the state may also do so through just programs of social security. Further, the proposed legislations are in accordance with the policy of the state to value the dignity of every human person and guarantees full respect for human rights. Relative thereto, the DOJ submits the following general observations, comments, and recommendations on the following provisions. Number 1, PNP protocol in responding to violence against a senior citizen. The PNP is directed to adopt a written protocol establishing guidelines and procedures to be followed by police officers in responding to requests for assistance and calls related to violence against senior citizens. We respectfully suggest for the inclusion of a time frame for the PNP to come up with a protocol from the time of the effectivity of the proposed legislation. Second, with respect to the provision on education and training programs for law enforcement officers and persons involving in responding to cases of violence against a senior citizen, we respectfully propose to include the Department of Interior and Local Government for better implementation, considering that the education and training program will be implemented nationwide. Third, with respect to the establishment of a senior citizens help desk, the creation of a senior citizens help desk in every barangay to provide immediate assistance to victims, survivors of abuse will encourage people in the community to report any forms of abuse committed against a senior citizen because it is more accessible. Likewise, the creation of the same in every police station may be useful. Fourth, with respect to the barangay protection order, the proposed bills provide for a barangay protection order that is issued by the lupong tagapamayapa and the punong barangay or barangay chairman. In cases where the punong barangay is unavailable, any available lupong tagapamayapa or barangay kagawad may issue the BPO. Reading from the said provision, it appears that the intent of the framers of the proposed bills is for both the punong barangay and the lupong tagapamayapa to be the issuing authorities for the BPO. And in case the punong barangay is not available, then either of the members of the lupon or barangay kagawad shall issue the same. If this is indeed the intention of the bills, to allow other officials to issue BPO in case of unavailability of the punong barangay, we respectfully suggest that only the punong barangay shall have the authority to issue the BPO, and in his or her absence or unavailability, the barangay kagawad or any member of the lupon in that order. The punong barangay and the barangay kagawad are elected barangay officials, while members of the lupong tagapamayapa are mere appointed barangay officials who would only usually meet once a month, or if there are scheduled hearings, which would make their availability more limited. And last, with regards to the implementing rules and regulations,
In view of the creation of the National Commission of Senior Citizens pursuant to RA number 11350, we recommend that it be included as one of the agencies to formulate the IRR. The NCSC is tasked with ensuring the full implementation of the laws, policies, and programs of the government pertaining to senior citizens and to make policies that will promote and protect the rights of the senior citizens. Also, we propose either the NCSC or the DSWD to lead the formulation of the IIR, taking into account their mandate functions in relation to the needs of the senior citizens. In sum, and with the stated suggestions, we support the enactment of the aforesaid bills into law. The DOJ likewise defers to the comments of other relevant agencies insofar as to the other provisions which are relevant to the respective mandates are concerned. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you, DOJ. But take note of my suggestion. If you were listening a while ago, I suggested that perhaps we can make this as an aggravating circumstances and therefore revising the revised penal code. Narinig mo ba yun?
Yes, Your Honor.
And if you will be submitting the position paper, if you will be submitting that position paper, kindly include your comments relative to my suggestion a while ago.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, DOJ. May we have the position of the Office of the Solicitor General? Sino po ba hindi ko napasalita dito? Maliliit kasi yung mga pangalan. Ano ba? PSA ba yung... Sino yung attorney? There is an attorney, Carmen. Carmen ba yun? Saan po siya? Sorry, OSG?
Immigration.
Immigration. Okay, natanong natin na immigration, kalingasan. What about yung... Pwede mapalakihin yan. Oh, Daisy Caber, but with us, your DSWD policy group here. Who else? Who is attorney? Who else are? What is OSRP? Huh? Okay, Robin Padilla. Palmer Malyari. Who is Palmer Malyari? Huh?
Sir, Chief Palmer Malyari.
Yes, any comment concerning this? National Bureau of Investigation. Tinanong ko kayo tungkol dun sa naturalization kanina. Any comment concerning this? Marami bang mga cases involving senior citizens as victims?
Your Honor, good afternoon.
So, choppy yung connection mo, Agent Palmer. We can hardly hear you. Medyo nawala na siya.
Can you?
Yes, naririnig na.
Yeah.
We cannot hear you, Agent Palmer Malyari. Nag-wave yung boses mo. I'm sorry, Agent Palmer. We can proceed with OSG, Attorney Magbanwa. What's the position here? Your personal position as well as the position of the OSG. Agent Malyari, we can dispense with you. We'll just wait for your position paper of the National Bureau of Investigation. Hindi talaga maintindihan yung audio mo. OSG, you can... Wala talaga. Technical, siguro i-cut off na natin siya. Hindi marinig eh. You're hardly audible. Attorney Magbanwa, you have the
Yes,
floor.
Your Honor. I again manifest that my position here is that I am a mere observer. But since I am very much aware that in OSG, in fact, I am the vice chair of the Senior Citizens and Differently Abled Committee in OSG, and we will be preparing our position paper and submit it in due time. But at any rate, Your Honor, let me just add that I do believe that there are a lot of crimes being committed against senior citizens, and I also submit that we are similarly situated. I myself, as a person with disability, also am being subjected to sometimes discrimination, and bullying of whatever sort. And so I believe that we support the pending bills here in the Senate.
Question, attorney, was do you consider a state neglect, the neglect of the government or an agency as a form of state abuse that would be tantamount to making the government itself liable?
Of course, we are actually immune to suit. But if it is in the mandate, within the mandate,
Government agency, LRT, ayaw papasukin yung ano kasi mabagal yung pila. Mabagal, pila na sasakay sa LRT, mabagal yung senior citizen. Siyempre mabagal na siya. Naunahan ng mga mas malalakas sa kanya. So is that, pagdating ng senior citizen, puno na ho. Di ba ho? Hindi na kayo, is that an abuse?
I believe that is one form of discrimination, which is actually a violation already. In fact, we have a United Nations Convention also of the rights. So it will be considered as an offense. And besides, we have specific places or for senior citizens.
Senior citizens
They're
lane.
allotted, yes.
So dapat ba sa immigration
Spaces.
meron din senior citizens lane?
Yes, there should be a priority lane for them.
Priority lane. Kasi pag nauna ka dun sa carousel. Makukuha mo kagad yung maleta mo. Nakakaabang ka ron. Kasi agawan din doon.
Yes, Your Honor.
Tulakan din doon. Pag nauna ka, wala ka ng cart. Di ba ho? Nangyayari po yan. So, will that make the government liable?
I think yes, if it is, of course, the acts of the employees would also tantamount to the being authorized employees, the employer will be liable.
What about private companies? Shumart o kung anong
Same-
hypermart, gano'n.
Same application.
Dapat meron din. Kasi ang pila, those with 10 items and below. Yun ang pila. Pero yung senior citizen, minsan namamalengke rin, nag-grocery, isang kariton din. Wala naman senior citizen na lane.
There's a priority lane in groceries. I also make my own groceries.
Ang priority lanes ay para sa 10
For
pages.
senior and
meron rin
persons
sa
with
senior.
disabilities. Yes.
But I've seen those 10 items and below. So wala naman nakalagay doon kung seniors, di ba? So and a lot of other things. Ang tanong doon, failure to do that, will that be considered as an abuse?
Yes, because it is within their powers to assist the senior citizen, and they did not do anything to assist the senior citizen.
Can you help this committee craft the appropriate bill and include that kung paano madala yon? Ganon din siguro sa doctor's consultations. Doctor's consultations.
There's no priority po sa...
Walang priority doon, pero sino ang unang naghihingalo doon? Di ba yung senior citizen? Di ba? Maunahan sa pila sa doktor, siyempre, first come, first serve yan eh. Di ba? So, maunahan talaga yung senior citizen. Pag-akit pa lang sa hagdanan papunta sa ospital, maunang umakit yung mas bata-bata. Pagdating ng senior citizen, cut off na. Hanggang 6 lang ang tatanggapin ni doktor. Dumating yung senior citizen, pang-7, pang-8. That's it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry na. So, is that a form of abuse?
Yes. It applies to everyone kasi. It's
So, hindi abuse, not intentionally
I
done.
don't think so. Because it is the right of other people which should also be respected.
Ay sa simbahan, una-unahan ng upo ang paglinggo. Di ba? Yung pari ba, liable doon. Unahan na, pagdating, nakatayo yung senior citizen, 2 oras, 1 oras mahigit. Nakaupo yung ay magpaupo. Sama ba natin to dito?
In our parish, we have a specific special place for seats especially for deaf parishioners.
That's exceptional. Hindi sa lahat siguro, no?
We can write the the bishop in order to give special place for parishioners who are
Can we
senior
make that
citizens.
part of the law?
No, because of separation of church and state, I
So,
don't
hindi
think we can
pwede.
force
Yung sa
them
bus,
to make that.
yung sa mga buses.
Yes, we can ask the Department of Transportation to.
Kasi
we have
nakatayo yung
stickers
senior
there.
citizen, nagte-text lang yung bata. Hindi na Hindi pinauupo. Is that an abuse?
Of the transport agency, because we have a policy wherein the senior citizens and PWD should be seated. There's a special seat in the buses wherein the senior citizen and PWD should occupy.
Okay.
But initially, as far as the bills are concerned,
Definition of the abuse term. How
Yes.
do we define
Yes,
this?
and-
What is abuse? Is it supposed to be intentional, unintentional, psychological, physical, or what? Kahit sa bangko.
yes.
Kahit sa bangko. Minsan nahuli rin yung senior citizen. Alam ni Attorney Quijano yan. So, we need your inputs. We expect your position paper. The same is true with the creation of desk. We have a women's children's desk. Tuloy pa yon. Do we need a senior citizens desk?
I think so, sir.
Para sa senior citizens na lang yon. What about PDLs? There are PDLs who are senior citizens. Deprived of their rights. Siyempre, pagpasok sa kulungan, nahuli na rin sa pagkain yun. Aagawan na yun ng mga okso na malalakas yung katawan, di ba? We have to include this likewise. Attorney Quijano, you have the final say. Pinatayan na tayo ng aircon.
Your Honor, please, we would like to commend the PNP because in some of their regions, there already is a senior citizens desk, which may be added sa children's and women's desk, Your Honor. But I would like to also raise this issue as well, Your Honor, to be included for the possible aggravating, Your Honor. Those who are in power, Your Honor. Just a while ago, before I came, there was an issue raised to me that certain local government officials who are exercising perhaps their powers may have exceeded by bullying senior citizens. So baka pwedeng isali din kasi.
It's the concept mentioned a while ago of the state itself being the abuser. Diba? So we've tackled a lot. There will be a second hearing for this. We will invite experts coming from the academe, doctors, take note of that, ComSec, experts coming from the private sector, so we can really craft a cohesive measure that would address this, whether done intentionally or not. But we commend the Philippine National Police for being patient here. You've been here since 8:30, I was told, and the others, all the others listening via Zoom, yung mga nandito sa in person, hindi pa kumakain, kainin nyo yan or ibaon nyo po yan. So we will have another hearing, and I think likewise Franklin Quijano, Attorney Quijano, Attorney Magbanwa, Attorney Charles de Belen, Asek Gary Politico, General Abrenica, General Morco, tama ba? General Calunaga, and your head of the legal division. Having concluded and explored a lot of new items concerning the 4 bills, and without objections on the part of my colleagues, this committee hearing of the Senate Committee on Justice and Human Rights is hereby suspended. Thank you. Muna ho kayo. Pagmamahin muna kayo.